Hello, hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well let's learn English together. Come in, and come in. Come in, people, and sit down. Welcome, welcome, and hello. And welcome, too. Welcome to Tuesday. Isn't there another word we could use instead of welcome? Something which begins with a T, for example. Let me think. Greetings? Nope, that begins with a G. Salutations? Nope, that begins with an S. Still, it's close to T, isn't it? I mean, they live next door to each other, don't they? I don't think that there is a synonym for welcome which begins with T. So we'll just have to use the one which is closest, salutations. Although it's not a 100% synonym. Very few synonyms are a 100% match to the word they're meant to be a synonym for. But salutations is, well, more the idea of a gesture, a sign, or something you say when someone arrives or departs. And that means that it's not really the same thing at all. Maybe we'd better just stick with welcome. That's the word we normally use, and that's the word we want to use too. Welcome comes from Old English and is all to do with us being pleased that someone has come. Salutations is from Late Middle English and comes from the idea of paying your respects to someone. A different idea. A very different idea, really. All right. Let's stick with what we know and love. Welcome to today's lesson, everyone. Welcome back to the studio. Welcome to the room where things happen. And things are about to start happening again. Yes, it's time. It's that time you've all been waiting for. Yes, the time has come for the second lesson of the second week of the fourth mega revision. Lesson 7 of how many? 25. All right. Let's make a start. Okay. All right. Right then. Right you are. Yes. Okie dokie. Righty-ho. So let's start Tuesday. Now yesterday, at the end of the lesson, I told you that when we're dealing with the present continuous tense, we don't only have to be careful when we're spelling the ing form of the main verb, when that main verb ends in a vowel. No. When the main verb ends in a consonant, we also have to be a little bit careful regarding the spelling. Okay, so let's have a look at the spelling problem. We know, and we also remember from yesterday, where we have to be careful when we're adding the ing ending to a verb which ends in E or in IE. With verbs which end in E, we have to remove the E before we add the ing. With verbs which end in IE, we have to remove the IE ending and replace it with YING, ying. Okay, we know that, but what about verbs which end in consonants or combinations of vowels and consonants? Where do we have to be careful with these verbs? Well, if the verb ends in a vowel plus a consonant, like the verb to, like the verb to stop, for example, which ends in OP. So with this verb, which ends in a vowel plus a consonant, we have to double the last letter before we add ing. I am stopping the car. You are running very quickly. He is swimming at the moment. She is traveling to Turkey tomorrow. All right. So we know that we have to take care with verbs which end in vowel plus consonant. Okay. But what about verbs which end in 2 consonants and verbs which end in 2 vowels and a consonant? Do we have to do anything there before we add the ing ending? No. If the verb ends in 2 consonants, like the verb to help or the verb to work, or if the verb ends in 2 vowels and a consonant, like the verb to read or the verb to need, then we don't have to change anything. We just put ing on the end. I am helping her with her homework. You are working in the office. he is reading the newspaper. So, that's that dealt with. If the verb ends in two vowels and a consonant, then we don't have to worry about anything. All we have to do is stick ing on the end and we're done. All right, well, are there any other problem areas we have to concern ourselves with? Well, yes. We've got to deal with the longer word problem. Now, when we're dealing with this group, we have to concentrate on where the stress falls in the word. Now, because this is English and not Hungarian, this means that it's not as easy as pie. In Hungarian, we know that the stress always falls on the first syllable of a word. It's omega, not omega, and not omega. The city is Miskolc, not Miskolc. Fine, but that only works in Hungarian. In English, a photographer takes a photograph. So, if we want to know where the stress falls on an English word, we have to learn the word or check the dictionary. Anyway, let's think about how this affects what we're doing with ing endings. If the end of the word isn't stressed, then we don't double the last letter of the word before adding the ing ending. So, that means with verbs like the verb to happen, the verb to listen, the verb to visit, and the verb to remember. Listen to the way that I say the verbs. Listen to where the stress is. Happen, listen, visit, remember. So, as you can see, or as you can hear, in those examples, the stress is either on the first syllable, or in the case of the verb to remember, on the second syllable. In those examples, the stress is not at the end of the word. It's not on the final syllable, which means that we don't have to do anything. We don't have to double the last letter before we add on the ending. All we have to do is stick the ing ending on the end. I am listening to you. You are visiting your grandmother. It is happening now. They are remembering their youth. Okay, but what about longer verbs where the stress is on the last syllable of the verb? What happens there? Well, in the case of longer verbs where the stress falls on the end of the word, with verbs like begin and refer, with these verbs we have to double the last letter before we add the ing ending. Begin, with the stress on the last syllable, becomes beginning with 3 N's, 2 in the middle and 1 in the ing ending. Refer, which also has the stress on the last syllable, also, just like begin, doubles the last letter before we add ing. Refer becomes referring with a double R. Okay. Anything else? Well, yes, there is one thing. If the verb ends in W or Y, then we never double the last letter before adding ing. This is because when we put W or Y at the end of a word, we don't think of those letters as consonants. So, if we take the verb to enjoy and want to use it in a present continuous sentence, we know that the last letter Y isn't doubled before we add the ing ending. And the same is also true of the verb to snow. There, they are really enjoying themselves. It is snowing. All right, spelling changes done. Let's have a look at something else. It's time to move on. We know the form of the present continuous. We know where we have to take care with spelling. But what about how we form a positive sentence? What do we have to do? What goes where? Well, that's simple, isn't it? Yes, we know that we're going to start with the subject or the subject pronoun, don't we? Yes. Mr. T or he, Margaret Thatcher or she, the cast of Fame or they. Okay, so we start with the subject and then what? What follows the subject? Well, after the subject, we put the correctly conjugated form of the verb to be. And we know that there are 3 forms of the verb to be, depending on which subject we're using. So, if the sentence is about the first person singular, then we're going to use am. If the sentence is about the second person singular, then we're going to use are. If the sentence is about the third person singular, then we're going to use is. And, as we all know, if the sentence is about any of the plural forms, then we're going to use are, just as we did with the second person singular. Okay, and then what? Well, after the correct form of the verb to be, we're going to follow with the main verb, with the ing ending. And after that? Well, after that, we get the rest of the sentence, if there is anything else. Okay, so let's have a look at a few examples, shall we? I am sitting in a bar waiting for my wife. She is traveling by car, so she's probably stuck in traffic. He is waiting for his girlfriend. She is walking to the bus stop. The phone's, it is ringing. We are playing football. You are listening to M5. There they are watching 7 green bottles on TV. Okay, so that's the positive form, and as I'm sure you all noticed, we use the abbreviated form, but then we prefer that form, don't we? Okay, so that's the positive form. What about the negative? What do we need to add to make a positive sentence negative? Yes, that's 100% correct. We need the adverb not. Okay, and where do we put it? Do we just throw it into the mix anywhere we fancy? No, of course not. The adverb not has to go between the correctly conjugated form of the verb to be and the main verb in the ing form. Okay, well in that case, turn these positive sentences into negative sentences. I am sitting in a bar waiting for my wife. You are traveling by car. He is waiting for his girlfriend. She is walking to the bus stop. The phone's, it is ringing. We are playing football. You are listening to M5. There they are watching 7 green bottles on TV. So, what did you get? Was that as easy as I think it was? Well, let's check your answers and find out. I am not sitting in a bar waiting for my wife. You are not traveling by car. He is not waiting for his girlfriend. She is not walking to the bus stop. The phone's, it is not ringing. We are not playing football. You are not listening to M5. There they are not watching 7 green bottles on TV. Okay, now is there anything that we need to think about with the negative sentences that we've just seen? Yes, that's it. What about abbreviating the negative sentences? Yes, you all remember, don't you? With most of the subjects, we can abbreviate in 2 directions, depending on how we feel. We can say that you're not coming or you aren't coming, for example, but with the first person singular, we can't do this. With the first person singular, we can only abbreviate one way. With the first person singular, we can only ever abbreviate so that not remains on its own. We can never join the correct form of the verb to be, am, and not. It just can't be done. So it's always I'm not coming and never I amn't coming. Remember that. To make that mistake is as bad as talking about the fact that Michael G. Fox is appearing in an international advertising campaign for the Japanese electronics company GVC. Yeah, it's really that bad. Believe me, it's a horrible mistake to make. Avoid that one like the plague, people. And we're done for the day. Yes, people, it's true. The lesson has run its course and now we're in the final straight. So I'm going to rip the microphone from my hairy chest and head off home. Coffee, people, coffee. And as for you lot, well, I don't know. Chores, homework, housework, tidying up the garden? You know, I don't. But whatever you do, remember to have fun when you're doing it. Turn the music up. I'll see you all tomorrow for some more revision, for another trip down memory lane. See you all tomorrow. See you later. www.mediaclick.hu. Bye!